What's up, guys? So in this lesson 3, we're going to be talking about the stroke order to Chinese characters as you write them. So the reason that stroke order is important to follow, and the reason I'm making this video, is honestly because I think it helps to memorize the characters faster. In a way, it's kind of easier to write, and it also flows very nicely. So it looks a lot better when you use the official stroke order. Also, I think one of the most important reasons behind this is that some computer applications with stroke order input can read characters more accurately when written in the official stroke order. So I think that is important to know as you start learning Chinese here. I also wanted to refer you guys to a quick site that I sometimes use if I'm ever in doubt about the stroke orders to a certain character. It's called archchinese.com. I think that this site will really help you out if you have any questions about this subject. Now, going straight into it, we have essentially 12 rules when it comes to stroke order with Chinese characters. Now, not every rule actually applies to every single character. It's actually the character shape that determines the rules that apply to the character itself. Now, the first rule I think applies to very linearly vertical characters in the sense that you start at the top and you end at the bottom with your stroke order. So when we write out 2, which is R, we can see that it's just 2 strokes. The first stroke is at the top, second is at the bottom. The next here, as an example, we have Tong. This character starts at the top, as you can see, and we kind of work our way down, eventually making our way to the bottom. All right, the next rule kind of applies, I think, mostly to characters that have radicals in the front, or if you just see a character with like 2 different kind of separated sections horizontally from each other, then I would say that that is a safe bet that rule number 2 applies to them, and that is from left to right. First, as an example, we have ni, which means you. Next, we have ma, which is the question particle in Chinese. Lastly, as an example here, we have ting, which means listen. As you can see, all these characters kind of have 2 separate parts to them with their own radicals in the front. So rule number 3 is horizontal before vertical. This kind of applies to most characters, kind of in a general sense. You usually write out the horizontal strokes before your vertical strokes. And so we have some examples here as I write it out. Just as another general rule, if you have diagonals in your character, then it's a safe bet that rule number 4 applies to them, which is that diagonals right to left before diagonals left to right should apply. So we have these 3 characters, ren, da, and wen. Rule number 5 is a pretty interesting one. It is outside before inside. Just to give you a kind of general example here, we have yue. As you can see, the character kind of encloses the 2 strokes that are in the middle there. And of course, in this case, you write the outside strokes before the inside. This also applies to characters that have strokes that surround the character from the upper left. So, for example, we have yo. Same goes for surrounding the character from the upper right, which is ke, as an example. And then just surrounding in general from above. And in this case, we're using when. Next, we have a rule that is on the reverse end of the last, which is to say that we have the inside strokes come before the outside. And this applies to characters that have strokes that surround from below or surround from the lower left area. Here to represent that rule is xiong, guo, and jian. So this rule is called inside before bottom and closing, because what that means is essentially you write the left top and right outside strokes first, and then proceed by writing the inside strokes for the character before you write out the bottom and closing stroke. As a representation, we got these 3 characters, yin, guo, and zhi. Rule number 8 applies to characters that have vertical strokes and also these outside facing strokes alongside them. We're calling the rule center verticals before outside wings. As some examples here, we have xiao and shui. The 9th rule is referred to as cutting strokes last. So we have as an example here, zhong. Essentially, you write out the square there and then write the vertical stroke that goes through it vertically there. As another example, we have yang. For rule number 10, I think of this as an extension to rule number 7, where you have left vertical strokes as your first stroke in the character before you enclose. So, for example, we have zhe, where the left vertical stroke is written first from top to bottom, and then you follow through with the rest. And then as some other examples for you guys, we have hui and S. For rule 11, we have top or upper left dots first in a character. This is pretty self-explanatory in the sense that with, for example, Wei, we have the upper left dot come first before we write out the rest of the character. And then for Tong, we have the topmost dot as the initial stroke as well. For the last rule, we have inside or upper right dots last. For upper right dots being last, a good example of this, I think, on a pretty basic level is 我. So in 我, we have the upper right dot come absolutely last in the stroke order. And then for inside dots coming last, we have as an example you. It looks like Wang, but there's just this one dot that is inside of it, and of course that is written last in accordance with this rule. Alright guys, that should be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I will leave my references below in the description if you're interested. We will follow through with another lesson soon enough. If you guys want to see more of these videos, be sure to subscribe if you aren't already. I will see you guys soon. Alright, peace.